are here in Spartanburg in South Carolina in the USA. We are at the home of the X vehicles from BMW. Yes, this is where all the X vehicles are made, starting from the X6 right down to the X1. But we are here because the new X4 will be launched in India later on in this year, and we are driving the new X4 as part of the international media drive. Lined up behind me are all the cars, and we'll be taking them out on the track first and then onto the scenic drive route, which is through the mountains and on the highways. So let's go and check out the car.
The X4 was born to provide a trendy alternative to the X3 in much the same way that the X6 provides a lifestyle variant to the X5. Both the X4 and the X6 are based on the same SUV coupe crossover concept and look similar from most angles, in so much so some people have been calling the X4 a baby X6. The new X4 is all about being muscular and well sculpted, much like the X6. Considering that it has a longer wheelbase, is longer in length and width, and is only slightly lower in height than before. It has moved even more closer to the X6 in overall appearance. The car is striking from all sides, with a very prominent front with a 3D kidney grille, while the rear is very nicely sculpted with all LED tail lamps. While the exteriors give the car a road presence, the interiors impart it with modernity and sportiness. The 12-inch instrument panel and the 10.25 inches touchscreen display for the infotainment system are all taken from the X3. As is the latest generation iDrive. The infotainment system also features gesture control, as is the trend with BMW cars these days. There is also a full-color head-up display, wireless phone charging, more storage areas including door pockets with the capacity to take in 1-liter bottles.
So we are out on the proving grounds of the BMW track in Spartanburg. This is where all the SUVs are put to test. Now you might wonder why such a handling track for testing SUVs, because of course BMW wants them to be really sporty, and the X4 really exemplifies this. They've put a locking differential at the rear, which locks depending on the mode that you are in. When the traction control is completely off, it locks fully and gives you traction out of corners. But of course, then you have to take care that you are not sliding the car. And in different modes, it locks differently, trying to provide best traction at all times. And overall, there is a sportiness to this car. Despite its size and weight, it goes around this track, well, not like a sports car, but very, very close. The other very impressive thing is the steering. It turns in very quickly in the sport mode, and it will also be helpful when parking.
We drove the X4 40D M Sport version of the car, and that is the one that will most likely be launched in India. It is powered by BMW's often used 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine that in its latest SKUs provides 326 bhp of max power, but more importantly 680 Nm of peak torque. It It is mated to the 8-speed Sport Steptronic automatic transmission that does duty on many of the BMW M Sport cars and the X-Drive system as well. The engine, of course, is super smooth, and that's what one would expect of the inline-6, and that it is loaded and the car sounds sporty as much as one can expect. But for the size of the car, it is very agile. The steering is direct and very sporty, and the SAV surprises over and over again by its sharp turn-in, aided no doubt by the superb high-performance 20-inch tires. The car is balanced and set slow, with its expanded track and lowering of the center of gravity that the BMW engineers have achieved. Added to that is the 50 kg weight reduction, and the X4 seems to be a bit bigger and sportier version of the X3 to drive. Getting out of corners, one can really lay the power down as the electronics come on unobtrusively when they are on. And the M Sport differential lock comes into play, powering the car out of corners. We pushed the car as hard as we would dare and found it difficult to unsettle it. Out on the roads, it was a different story. The diesel is as quiet as the petrol, and in the comfort mode, the ride is surprisingly good. Even on the bad patches of tarmac that we found plenty of.
Now I've been driving the BMW X4 all day around Spartanburg, on the track, on the proving grounds, in the plant, on the highways and in the mountain roads, and I must say I'm very impressed. The X4 is perhaps the sportiest of all the BMW X cars. That's what BMW intended it to be. And now that it shares its underpinnings and the architecture with the 5 Series and the 7 Series, it has all the features and the driver assistance systems that anybody could ask for that are there in all the other BMW cars as well. And inside the cabin is now top spec, much like the new X3. And of course, it adds a whole new sporty feel to the X cars that BMW currently has.
BMW has always been the one to push the envelope both globally and even in India when it comes to creating and entering new segments and niches. But this time they will be the second entrant to this very niche segment. However, they do so with a great product and knowing that there is a market that can be exploited and expanded. If BMW is able to execute its plans of making the SAV locally, then with an excellent modern product that the X4 is, they might find more people willing to make the switch from the typical SUVs.